So David Marcus, his nickname was Mickey. You might have seen him portrayed by Kirk Douglas in the movie Cast a Giant Shadow. Great movie, great Hollywood movie. He was born into a Jewish immigrant family in New York and became an American success story. He had a winning personality and was successful at whatever he tried his hand. I want to share with you a bit of a bio about him and some of his accomplishments so you can see just how successful he was. Mickey graduated from the prestigious West Point Military Academy in 1924. While he was there, he also excelled at boxing and football. After graduation, he became a lawyer and then worked as an assistant United States attorney and soon went on to become commissioner of the New York City Departments of Corrections. With his Army service and his legal training, he later became a JAG or worked as a lawyer in the Army. Later, he became head of the Army Ranger program, and he also parachuted onto the beaches of Normandy as part of D-Day. He helped draft the Nazi surrender and worked for the Allies on prosecuting the Nazis during the Nuremberg hearings. He was awarded the Distinguished Service Cross and the Bronze Star. This is just a condensed version of his life. Mickey was truly larger than life. One of the experiences that left an indelible impression on him was when he served under General Clay, commander of U.S. occupation forces in Germany. Clay's standing orders at the time were that all senior officers in Germany were to visit the recently liberated Dachau concentration camp. Marcus was well acquainted with Nazi wartime atrocities, but even that knowledge did not prepare him for the horrors he saw at Dachau. He had never been a Zionist, but now he started to rethink his position on a future Jewish state. By the end of the Nuremberg trials, he was nominated for the rank of Brigadier General 5 times. Nomination number 6 came in 1947, along with the offer of a coveted assignment as the military attaché at the U.S. Embassy in Moscow. Mickey, however, elected instead to return to civilian life in New York and to go back to practicing law. Later that year, as Israel's War of Independence was starting up, David Ben-Gurion, Israel's first prime minister, was looking for an American Jew who had served in World War II and had extensive military experience to come over to Israel and help command the fledgling army. Ben-Gurion's representative got in touch with Mickey. They wanted to use Mickey for his connection to get to the big brass, but none were interested, as they were concerned that by serving under a foreign flag, they would lose their status in the army and especially their pension. Mickey's failure to find any top military men made him decide to go himself. Mickey said, "I may not be the best man for the job, but I'm the only one willing to go." After arriving in Israel, Mickey went straight to work. From memory, he wrote the several hundred-page first version of Israel's Army Manual based on the American Army Manual. He stopped the Egyptian army from advancing on to Tel Aviv, and he also organized a better command structure that was sorely missing. The following joke, I hope, will help illustrate this important contribution. I'm sure many of you know this. So the yeshiva decided to field a crew team. Unfortunately, they lost race after race. They practiced for hours rowing every day, but never managed to come in any better than dead last in all of their rowing races. So the head rabbi finally decided to send Yankel to spy on the Harvard team. And Yankel slept off to Cambridge and hid in the bulrushes off the Charles River, from where he watched the Harvard team as they practiced. Yankel finally returned to yeshiva. He calls the guys together on the crew team and he says, "I figured out their secret. They have 8 guys rowing and only 1 guy shouting." Mickey's most important, I hope everybody's smiling or at least laughing, most important contribution was making sure that Jerusalem would be part of Israel. During the War of Independence, Jerusalem was cut off from the rest of Israel under siege. If the ceasefire would go into effect without access to Jerusalem, the city would be lost. The Arabs controlled all the high ground and prevented the transport of essential supplies into the city. Mickey decided he could take a goat's path and turn it into a road. They would do this right under the noses of the Arabs. The head engineer of the brigade was fiercely opposed, and he screamed that this was impossible and could not be done. Just no way to build such a road. The inclines were too steep. But Mickey was determined that they could succeed. There was a massive mobilization of civilian workers who, alongside soldiers, worked day and night. At the start, they only used small hand tools so that they would not be discovered by the Arabs. Among the volunteers who worked on the road were yeshiva students from Mea Shearim. Chief Rabbi Yitzchak Herzog, the father of President Chaim Herzog, granted special dispensation to permit the work to proceed on Shabbat. While all this construction was going on, they also had over 600 people called in with packs on their back. They traversed on foot at night, holding onto the shirt of the person in front of them to get the urgently needed supplies to Jerusalem, while at the same time the others were building the road. The road that they built became known as the Burma Road, And just before the ceasefire went into effect, the road was a success, and they had transport trucks loaded with supplies entering Jerusalem, breaking the siege, and even more importantly, ensuring that Jerusalem would be part of Israel. While all this was happening, Ben-Gurion appointed Mickey supreme commander of the Jerusalem front with the rank of general, or aluf in Hebrew, a rank not held since the times of Bar Kokhba thousands of years earlier. That night, after celebrating, Mickey waved to the guard wearing only a blanket as he left the camp to relieve himself. When he returned, the guard had been switched out, and there was now a new guard, and he did not recognize Mickey nor understand his English. Mickey, the savior of Jerusalem, was tragically shot and killed by friendly fire, the last casualty on the Jerusalem front before the ceasefire began. His body was brought back for burial in the cemetery at West Point. David Ben-Gurion said of Marcus, "He was the best man we had, and his name will live forever in the annals of Jewish history. Indeed, he is the savior of Jerusalem. What's shocking to me is how few Israelis have ever heard of him, despite so many knowing about the Burma Road." Greg, I'm going to ask you to please to turn to the next slide. He is the only soldier to be buried at West Point who died while serving under a foreign flag. You can see his grave here on the left at West Point, and on the right is a memorial to him at Kiryat Yearim, just outside of Jerusalem, where he was killed.